Good to have you on the 9 p.m. edition of the Urban Debate. We again put the spotlight on one of the big political debates continuing in our country right now. Started off from Uttar Pradesh, where first the Law Commission put up this draft, and now the government is looking at this policy very, very seriously, the population control policy. And in fact, over the Urban Debate Weekend edition, we told you exactly what the policy is, the pros and the cons, and where the debate really lies. For example, it does offer increased access to contraceptive measures. It provides proper system for safe abortion, reducing newborns, maternal mortality rates. It looks at improving the arrangements for elderly care, improving healthcare and education facilities. So there are these parts. But obviously what has caught everybody's attention and has become a big debating point is the fact that it limits number of children people should have if they want to either fight in the local elections or get a government job. And that can't be more than 2. If you have more than 2 kids, you can't fight local elections. Then in Uttar Pradesh, you will not be eligible for a government job. You will miss out on a lot of incentives. You will not get the full benefit of even the government welfare schemes, the ration schemes. All of that will get limited to you. Versus if you do go for a 2-child policy or even a single-child policy, then there are a lot more of these incentives that are given instead. And this is what a lot of people have focused on. The opposition has turned around and called this election propaganda. They're saying that the BJP is looking at everything from a political angle. They say that the policy is not in the interest of people, and that is just a political stunt and nothing more ahead of the assembly elections. But Uttar Pradesh is not the only state that is creating noise about this right now. In Assam, the newly elected government and the chief minister have already said multiple times that they will bring in a population control policy, and that there will be incentives and disincentives, very serious ones that they will look at, and they'll probably have it in the next assembly session. Now, Karnataka is mulling a similar policy. In fact, in Karnataka, the state health minister has indicated that they will also look at it. So one after the other states. By the way, a lot of states in our country already do have these rules. Many states already have rules that bar you from contesting local civic body polls or panchayat polls if you have more than 2 children. A lot of states don't give you a government job if you have more than 2 children. But when it's a state like Uttar Pradesh or a state government of BJP, is that when people begin to see it from a political angle, from a communal angle? Is that why the arguments come about that this is only to target one community, that people from one community will not actually see benefits, that this is to create some kind of balance between the various communities and their population for political purposes? So we're going to look at that angle. We will also look at the angle that even though these policies exist elsewhere, do they really help in the longer run as a larger picture? Do they help? Do they not help? Effectively, is this a political move, a political debate, or is the population control policy with the genuine intent and for population control, and does it even help? I say good evening to Anila Singh, spokesperson for the BJP, Vivek Silas, spokesperson for the Samajwadi Party, K.S. James, Director and Senior Professor for International Institute of Population Sciences in Mumbai, Deepa Sinha, faculty for the Ambedkar University in Delhi, joining us this evening. Let me actually start off with Mr. James. Mr. James, are there any exhaustive studies that have been done in the Indian setup to say that when you bring in such policies where you block access to government support, government schemes, government jobs, it does help in bringing about awareness and reducing population, or at least slowing down the population growth?
Thank you for the question. I think there has been several states, as you have suggested, has gone for population policy maybe for the last 2 decades. There has been population policy in previous Andhra Pradesh, there has been population policy for Haryana, and many other states has gone for population policy. Even Uttar Pradesh in the year 2000 have gone for a population policy. The question people have been asking whether these policies have been successful. I think there is only very limited evidences to suggest that such kind of a disincentive policies had a very wide-ranging impact on the reduction of population, the birth rate. Because if you really look at other states, because demographic transition or fertility transition in India has been quite substantially uniform across many states. All the levels has been substantially different. You can see many states of the northern states has very high fertility, but also falling very fast in recent decades and recent times. So that way, the policy, the states which has adopted the policy did not have any specific advantage compared to the states which never went for a policy, like Tamil Nadu, for instance, or Kerala, for instance, did not never had any policies, but they had a fertility transition much earlier than many other states. I think the concern for population policy is also emanate from the fact that there is a need to do something for the reduction of birth rate or the control of population. That is always welcome. But incentives and disincentives per se, we cannot really tell that, that will have a very, very positive impact on the reduction of birth rate.
Okay, so we'll also break it down further, and I'll come back to you for more insights on then will these steps help or what else should we then look at. But let me also bring in now Anila Singh. Anila Singh, if there isn't too much evidence available that it helps, it doesn't help. I was reading another report, though it's extremely, it is relatively old, 2005 report, but it was a 5-state study that was conducted, which said that, when you bring in such policies, you also see instances where men end up divorcing their wives simply because they want to fight elections and they will contest elections. So on paper, they carry out that divorce. It also had data to suggest that sex detection and sex-linked abortions, illegal abortions, of course, all of that went up in such states. Has all of that been factored in, Anila Singh, or is this just a political cry ahead of the elections?
Tanvi, I think this policy was much awaited and much required for Uttar Pradesh, because we very well know that Uttar Pradesh is a country in itself sustaining humongous population, almost 25 crores of population. We very well know only three or four countries have more population than Uttar Pradesh in the world. So, whenever you talk about UP, so the picture of UPites, people coming from Uttar Pradesh, is only one, working in factories as laborers or at Hila or Rediwalas. So it is now the time has come that we want Uttar Pradesh to become hub of business. We want more unicorns to be produced here in Uttar Pradesh, and we need to give more qualitative life to the people living here in Uttar Pradesh, especially if I talk about women. What we have seen is, if we talk about TFR, Uttar Pradesh has got much higher than the national average. So we have to work on it, and any leader who has got strong political willpower, he or she can do it. Otherwise, we know it very well that if you are in politics, then you are into appeasement politics. Here, Yogi Adityanath ji, he doesn't have to do any sort of appeasement to anyone. He has taken a decision above religion and caste line or area line, I can say so. Because, what I am listening since this policy has been launched, Tanvi, that since elections are coming, you want to polarize. That is why this policy has come up. I mean, I'm coming from Uttar Pradesh, and I can tell you, married women, mothers, 4 crore in Hindu married women are there, more than 4 crores, and some 1 crore plus are Muslim women. So if policy is coming, it is going to impact more on Hindus rather than Muslim. So there is nothing like that to communalize through this policy. We are here to improve the infant mortality rate. We are here to improve maternal mortality rate. We are here to give very good education. We are here to give more, you can say, contraception education in Uttar Pradesh. So through all constructive and positive steps, we are going to reduce the population. Why incentives or de-incentives? Like, this policy starts with the incentives. Incentives are always good. Like, it is a way of motivating people. It is a very, very necessary step. But at the same time, Tanvi, nobody is forcing anyone to follow this policy. If you want to have benefits out of this policy, you follow it. If you do not want, then do not do it. But at the same time, I heard Mr. James saying that history is witness such policies have always failed.
Yeah.
So it means that we should not take such steps.
Yeah, we should find newer steps,
today we
better
have crossed
solutions
the
that
population
work.
of China.
That is exactly what it means. If policies haven't historically worked in our country itself, then we should look at other options and not the ones that don't work, but simply help you create the narrative that we are doing this for your good.
Can I make a small comment on it?
Yes.
Yes. Policies fail, laws fail when there is very bad implementation. But here in Uttar Pradesh, since Yogi ji has become Chief Minister, we have seen that whatever laws he has brought in or whatever steps he has taken, implementation is 100%. So I'm pretty hopeful that this policy is going to work in Uttar Pradesh and rest of the states in India, they are going to follow what Yogi Adityanath ji is going to do.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that, the kind of race that the UP government triggered with love jihad laws is what we will see in this, without any thought being put into what's the actual implementation of such rules and regulations on grounds and what are the benefits. So that I am with you on, Anila Singh. Quick response from Vivek Silas on the political point of it, and then we'll go to Deepa Sinha for an expert view. Yes.
Yes, very good evening to you, ma'am, and very good evening to Anjali ji and Mr. Anila ji and Mr. K.S. James. Yes, ma'am. I would like to start when 23 crore people have gone below the poverty line in the Bharatiya Janata Party-led government. When employment is the highest in 46 years, the unemployment rate. When inflation is unbearable and when the GDP is going in shambles, health and education budget has been cut down by 6%. Then you are thinking about this. Then you are coming with a draft of population policy in Uttar Pradesh. I think it's just to distract the minds of people from the basic issue like infrastructure, atrocities on women, farmers, unemployment, inflation, health, education, corruption, price hike of diesel and petrol, LPG. If you see in the last 4.5 years, the Yogi government has badly failed to deliver in whatever it has promised. Whether it is 1 trillion economy, we don't see any smart cities in Uttar Pradesh. We don't see any film city, no investments, jobs are being lost, no infrastructure in Uttar Pradesh. And I would like to tell the viewers one more thing. Last year, the Modi government gave an affidavit in the Supreme Court saying that the population control policy should not be implemented in the country, because they had to fight elections in the 5 states. So they were giving statements in the Supreme Court. Not the statement, affidavit, written affidavit by the central government was given in the Supreme Court that no population control policy should be implemented. But today they have to fight election after 6 months or so. Now they are coming up with this. It's just to distract the mind. In 4.5 years, I think the Yogi government has only changed the name of the cities and railway station in the name of development. You talk about 5 expressways in UP, but no expressway is being seen at the moment. Where to go and when to come down, you don't know. But you are giving advertisements of thousands of crores of rupees that I don't know what has happened in UP. Some things that have substantially changed. It is not like that. If you read the central government report issued by the central government, by the Bharatiya Janata Party, government in Delhi, unemployment rate is the highest in Uttar Pradesh. We don't talk about it. Infant mortality rate is the highest in Uttar Pradesh. Maternal mortality rate is the highest in UP. Every 2 hours, a woman is raped in UP. That is a report issued by the central government, which is led by the Bharatiya Janata Party itself.
Okay, quick response from Anila Singh. This isn't really about saying that because you've managed to achieve everything else, you're now looking at tackling the population problem, but this is a distraction, alleges the Samajwadi Party, from the real issues and from aspects where you have not done any work.
See, Yadavji's party is really rattle and rattle because Yadavji and his party knows it very well that Yogi Adityanath has done whatever he has said. And if we talk about the development verticals, Mr. Vivek, anytime I'm ready to discuss on that, debate on that. Whenever Tanvi wants, I'll come on the channel and I'll debate on it because there's a huge list because with us what Yogi Adityanath has done. In comparison to Yadavji, who just did one thing, that is expressway. And second, he claimed about the metro, which was completed in our tenure. So don't try to challenge us on the verticals of development. But secondly, a person, who does a PC and starts advocating about the terrorists who were caught, and he says that these terrorists, since they are Muslims, you have conspired and you have caught them. So this is very unfortunate. And he comes and advocates about Umar Gautam.
Okay.
He advocates about Maulana Jahangir, who had been into illegal conversion, I can say so. So the political party who is into such type of activity can never appreciate.
Okay.
And Mr. Vivek, you have totally endorsed what the requirements of Uttar Pradesh. That is why this policy has come, whether we talk about mortality rate or whether we talk about malnutrition. I told you, Uttar Pradesh has got the population, leaving three countries aside, it has got a humongous population. So we need to get some good population policy under which everything can be taken care of.
Are these aspects part of a good population policy, and is that really the priority right now, is what our experts will answer. 30 seconds to you, Vivek. The comment that Anila Singh was referring to made by Akhilesh on the arrest of those of the Al-Qaeda suspects, is that really required? Aren't you also playing the same kind of politics then?
No, ma'am, I would like to respond saying that whenever the elections are close by, if you see what happened in Pulwama before the 2019 elections, our Prime Minister with the martyred soldiers picture behind him was campaigning, and the election commission had to stop him. Leaders from Karnataka and Gujarat, the Bharatiya Janata Party leaders, they were saying it's a good time to win elections. That is what they were saying. And we always said, this is very sad, that let the law take its course, and if found guilty, hardest of punishment should be given to them. Will you see what happened in Pathankot? We don't trust the police. What do you trust the central government agencies? What happened in Pathankot? You brought in ISI to investigate, ma'am. The ISI from Pakistan was investigating.
Oh, that is a different matter. That is a different matter. Today, Akhilesh Yadav has said he doesn't trust the UP police to say that these are the, Al-Qaeda terrorists or not. That is the level of politics that we are seeing play out in Uttar Pradesh without having any proof from one side or the other side. I don't want to get caught in this conversation. That's not the focus right now. We will have that debate another time, Vivek and Anila. Let me go across to Deepa Sinha. Deepa Sinha, many are also making the argument that we have actually as a nation moved beyond that alarming spot where we needed to take drastic measures to bring down the population growth. Our population isn't exploding in that sense anymore, and so policies need to be designed accordingly. Are these policies that, for example, what UP is now looking at, is that helpful then?
Absolutely not. So firstly, like you said, population growth is not population explosion. The word that is used is not the biggest problem that our country is currently facing. Most of the states in India have already reached what is called replacement level. And even if you look at Uttar Pradesh, it does have a higher fertility rate compared to other states. But if you look at the trend, it's a declining trend. And this is something that is a process. There are already so many young people, even if they have 2 children each, it takes time for population to stabilize. Secondly, for population stabilization, these kind of incentive and disincentive policies have never worked, neither in India or anywhere in the world. What works is an access to healthcare services, good maternal and childcare services, enhancement in women's empowerment within and outside the household. So through delaying child marriage, women's education, improving their decision-making power. These are the things that work in reducing population. And these are the things that worked for the states in south of India where the population growth declined before other states. And in UP too, what would be more important is to invest in the human development outcomes of the state through investment in public health and education, so that primary healthcare is available, infant mortality reduces, maternal health improves. All of this contribute to population stabilization on their own. I just want to make one more point, that there is also a dangerous side to this. The more coercive population policies we have, it's also seen that that leads to a worsening of the sex ratio, because if you're not allowing people to have the number of children that they want to have, and if it's not happening through this process of social mobilization, then you see that girls are not allowed to be born. And this is something not just in India, it's been seen in China as well. So we really need to be careful in taking these kind of policies to stabilize the population.
When you say coercive, obviously nobody is making this mandatory. It's not mandatory anywhere, or it's even the Law Commission itself said it's voluntary. But will giving disincentives, including disincentives like can't contest polls, cannot avail government welfare schemes to the fullest, or get a government job, is that coercive enough? Would you count that?
Coercive, isn't it? Because you cannot participate as an equal citizen because of your fertility decisions, which might also not be completely under your control. Look at the unmet need for contraceptives in a state like UP. Where are the health services which is allowing people to make fertility decisions which meet your population goals? And it's not just not contesting elections. Even that I think is wrong and goes against basic human rights. But it also says that a ration card, for instance, cannot have more than 4 units. So if you have a third child, is it the fault of that child that you won't get them subsidized food in a poor family? That is coercive, because these go against other basic human rights like food, nutrition, access to various services.
In fact, Mr. James, that's also a thing that many institutions, including the VHP, has raised, in reaction to this specific UP policy, where they have said, can't punish the child, you can punish the parents, but you're looking at a policy where you're punishing the child, and the single child policy, in fact, is going to be, and the incentives will just be more detrimental than beneficial.
Yeah, indeed. Actually, the policies are always welcome. Policies is our intention. Policies gives you a direction and all. That way, I think many states in the past had policies. But the question we are asking is that whether incentives and disincentives should be a part of a policy. Perhaps I think that may be stretching too far at this stage, because the fertility transition is evident in many states, even including UP. The fertility transition is very, very evident, and the contraceptive use is going up in all the sections of the population, irrespective of, but there is diversity between the different caste group, different religious group, different socioeconomic groups. There are diversity. So one has to address all those things. So for that, I'm saying the policy is in that way the right intention. But in the 1994 itself, the government of India, along with the UN, which has also decided that, it is not the coercion or even the disincentives as well as incentive will not be part of our policies, but it is more of a right-based approach we will be adopting in the area of family planning. So that way, we are also committed to make sure that the right-based approach, in the sense that everyone is given choices, and it is the couple's choice that will dominate over the decisions of the government or even any other private decisions. So that way, we believe that policies are very important, which has to be emphasized, but at the same time, the incentives and disincentives, which are part of the policies, can be looked at once again.
Okay, let me take this across to Anila Singh. Anila Singh, because, that's what the experts are also saying. How you design the policy and what you put on offer or take away is also very important. And not just that, that's also what the Vishwa Hindu Parishad seems to be saying, extremely upset with this, saying you're going to further bring about the imbalance and increase the gap between the communities. This will cause a contraction of population as well. Don't reward or punish the child. Reconsider the objective, bringing down total fertility rate. Two-child policy is desirable for achieving stability. So somewhere, do you think that larger conversation is needed? And I'm not talking about VHP right now, but with experts at least, to look at what you want to do.
See, if you talk about experts, the only consideration is that earlier also such policies had come and they failed. But by just taking example of those policies which failed, it doesn't mean that we cannot make such policies and go ahead with it. I mean, we can't keep sitting like that.
Okay, okay, you have a fair point. Let me take it to Deepa. Deepa, to say the policy failed, so don't try, why should we not keep trying? Is there another way of putting it? It's not just failing, it's detrimental. It also harms a particular, part of the country when you put such policy in.
No, I'll twist the question actually. We have so many policies that have succeeded in our own country to even stabilize population. Why don't we do that as part of the population policy? How did Tamil Nadu reduce their fertility rate? How did Kerala reduce their fertility rate? It was through women's education. It was through access to basic healthcare services. It was through making people access contraception and giving them the choice. So these are things that were done across in other states and they worked. And therefore, if we need to do a new policy, then we have to pick up these aspects that have worked in other parts of India. And secondly, like you said, these incentives and disincentives, it's not just that they've not worked, they go against basic human rights in many other aspects. They go against a couple making a choice of their own fertility decisions about how many children they will have, and they go against the rights of the children of the higher order. So there is a contrast here. One is not just saying that it's a failed policy, therefore don't do it. However you implement it, there is something wrong also that is happening, which is that it is violating the rights of a certain set of people, which may be young couples, which may be young children, and also, like I said, it is detrimental for sex ratios. On the other hand, there are many positive things that you can do, which would contribute to population stabilization as well as better health outcomes. And that is what is the need of the hour today, improving primary healthcare services. If children survive longer, if people have access to good healthcare services, they will automatically decide to have fewer children.
Yes.
Can I?
Yes.
Tanvi, first of all, we cannot compare Uttar Pradesh with southern states. Just now, Ms. Sinha, she gave she gave example of Kerala, she gave example of Tamil Nadu, she gave example of Andhra, and most of the southern states. So you cannot compare Bihar and Uttar Pradesh with southern states. Absolutely no. And secondly, you are very much correct. You are very much correct. Education is the right tool for everything, for every problem. But the thing is, you should appreciate, I do not know that whether you have read this policy or not. In this, it is written in clear words, whether we talk about the usage of condom, whether we talk about the usage of modern means of contraception, whether we talk about infant mortality rate, maternal mortality rate, or the mortality rate of the kids below 5 years. Everything with the data I have got in front of me. It will take lots of time. I do not want to tell the data here, but we want to improve. And how we are going to improve? It is through making health infrastructure more strong, education, and definitely making ASHA workers more active into it. So the government has got all its verticals in right place to implement the policy, and we know it. Yes, education is a way, but we cannot keep sitting. अच्छा कि हमारा प्रदेश में education बहुत अच्छा हो जाएगा, and we can keep on waiting for that. No, incentives are there that you should go ahead. You should adopt this policy and do some sort of contribution for your state. But the thing is, you cannot, please do not compare Kerala with Uttar Pradesh. Kerala's literacy rate and Uttar Pradesh literacy rate, we are in par since 4.5 years, and things have improved. But still, Uttar Pradesh needs to work much, much harder to get us in better position. We want Uttar Pradesh to be hub of business. We do not want us to be only bhaiyas. We do not want Shiv Sainiks to bash us in Maharashtra. We want our people here in UP. But the thing is, if we keep on politicizing everything, it becomes very difficult. We have to think from the larger perspective now.
Okay, Vivek, if we think keep on politicizing the issue, we are never going to get through it. We have to look at a problem from multiple aspects and then see how we're fixing it. There are so many good aspects of this policy. Without looking at it, the charge is, why are you reacting and saying it's all political?
I definitely agree with Anila ji that education and health is very, very essential for any state. In fact, for entire country. But the question is, why the education budget has been cut down by 6% and why the health budget has been cut down? If it is so important, why the budgets have been cut down, ma'am, by your government? If your government, Yogi government is working so well in Uttar Pradesh, why are the farmers on street? You said that you will be doubling their income by 2022, and 2022 is just coming. Where is the double income? I can't see that. Why are the jobless youth agitating in front of the house of Deputy Chief Minister Keshav Prasad Maurya? Why? That is also a question. Why are women being manhandled and treated brutally, even raped? Today, a woman committed suicide just because, please listen, today a woman committed suicide just because her son was kidnapped and the Uttar Pradesh police in Banda was not registering her FIR. Even the FIRs are not being registered and she had to commit suicide, man. Can anything be more brutal than that? And there have been lots of corruptions in UP. Even in corona crisis, PPE kit, mask and oximeter, oxygen cylinders were not spared out of corruption. Corruption was done in cremation grounds. 69,000 teachers corruption. We almost debated that many times. Even in midday meals, children were served with salt and chapatis. Salt, books, furniture, Bal Vikas Pushtahar, everything. Where the corruption is not there. Your netas were selling illegal liquor. During Corona, they were caught in Mirzapur. Your netas were printing illegal and duplicate books in Meerut. They were caught. They were all from the Bharatiya Janata Party. You cannot say that. So you don't say. You accept what you have done, and you should tell the people now what you have done 4.5 years, rather than polarizing the Uttar Pradesh polls. That is all I say. Because development is the need of the country and Uttar Pradesh both. And be it Samajwadi Party or Bharatiya Janata Party, we need to work for the development of the people. That is all. Apart from that, no false information should be given to the people of state or the country, as the Bharatiya Janata Party has always done.
Okay, Anila Singh wants to respond to that.
Vivekji, you're absolutely correct. When we talk about the development of our state, then we should work together. But unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, that Yadavji did the PC and he advocated for these terrorists. And this is old habit of Yadavji's party, because earlier also we had seen that they had gone ahead in the court for taking life sentence back for some of the terrorists, but High Court didn't entertain them. So this is the basic character of Yadavji's party, that you go ahead and support the terrorists. And secondly, Vivekji, you are talking about the budget. So you should not confuse that we are talking about Uttar Pradesh here. So what the center does and what Uttar Pradesh does, they are two different things. So we are discussing Uttar Pradesh today. And secondly, you are talking about crime. I am not saying that Uttar Pradesh is crime-free state. But yes, very confidently, I say that crime graph has reduced. And very well, and you know it very well, that the criminals, heinous crime criminals, they're so scared. And how Ansari was pulled back here in Uttar Pradesh from Punjab, where Congress party was supporting him and was not letting him come back to Uttar Pradesh. Everybody has seen it. So here we have a Yogi who is a chief minister, who doesn't have any hidden agenda. He doesn't require money to celebrate Safai Mahotsav. He doesn't require money to get actors and actresses from Mumbai to perform here. He is so dedicated. He has got only one agenda, and that is the development of Uttar Pradesh. And for that, if he has to bring such policy, population control policy, he will go ahead. He will not be scared that whether these policies were not very well implemented in other states. He is one person who knows to make the policies and get them implemented.
Okay.
And that is a problem. With Samajwadi Party or Bahujan Samaj Party or Indian National Confused Party. They are dinocrats and they cannot entertain.
Well, I think what is very clear is that all political parties are playing the same kind of politics, and all of the announcements and actions will boil down to identity politics over religion, caste, and communities and whatnot. If only any of you were actually serious about bringing in that kind of development, it would have been a very different conversation today. But I'm going to step away from that for a bit and go back to my experts and to Mr. James first, and then we will go across to Ms. Sinha as well, Ms. Deepa Singh as well. Mr. James, a lot of people also raise the argument of what China did and the fact that they had a one-child policy for 35 years, but they have now been forced to change that rule, allow 2 children, in fact, incentivize having more than that as well. Now, would that be a fair example to give? Because how they handle it would be very different from what we do, and for how long we implement any such policy.
Yeah, let me just also explain the demographic transition in India compared to what really happened in other countries. In India's speciality in demographic transition is that it also has embraced all sections of the population. If you say that, Tamil Nadu and Kerala are different because they have high education, but we have also examples from Orissa, we have also examples from other states, where one of the poorest states in Odisha, which has achieved a replacement level fertility. So we also found that in any states in the country which has achieved the fertility transition, also embraced all sections, including the illiterate, including the poor, including the undercaste, and all kinds of sections of the population. So that is the beauty of the population stabilization policies in India. That was the beauty of the population stabilization, all programs in India. So I'm sure Uttar Pradesh is also on that direction, because if you look at the fertility transition in Uttar Pradesh, it is also going towards the same way, because for the last few years, or for last 2 decades, you can say the fertility transition has been very rapid. So I'm sure this state is going to achieve transition sooner or later. Now, if you really look at China has been an exception in the world in several respects. I think China had a very stringent policies, which had several ramifications, as Deepa was telling, that it has also led to a skewed sex ratio. It also, now China has defrozen that the control, and they said that you can even go up to the 3 children. But it's also shown that these kinds of changes in the behavior of the couples is also very, very difficult. Although China was able to achieve, because of the stringent policies, certain population control strategies, but that is not actually perhaps permissible in many other countries, especially in a country like in India, where it is democratic in nature. So, and also whether if you really achieve that later, in case you want to go back to little more higher population size, like now China wants, so change the age distribution of the population because of the huge number of people in the older ages, that may not work out. That may not be possible, because the behavior of the human beings are also not going to change substantially during a shorter period of time. So that is why population policies has to be crafted very carefully. Population policies has to be implemented also very carefully with the experts' opinion, etc. Because all these are changes in the behavior of the couples, behavior of the people, which needs to be also implemented very carefully and also very radically in all parts of the country.
Does it also become, a kind of a threat, especially to women and girl children, Deepa? For women who may not have a complete control on conceiving itself, but will have to bear the brunt of it, especially if they intend to try and get a government job, or are already in a government job in smaller towns and villages.
Absolutely. So one point of the sex ratio has already been made multiple times. The second is this issue that although the policy does say that they would encourage male sterilization as well, we do know that ultimately this burden of fertility, how many children you have, and sterilization, contraception comes on women. And in this context, where in India and in Uttar Pradesh particularly, where women's status is already quite poor, where we also have this problem across the country of declining female labor force participation. These kind of policies would only disincentivize women finding employment, employers providing, we need other kinds of enabling policies. We actually need maternity entitlements in the unorganized sector. You need childcare services. These are the kind of things you would think of if you want to actually enable women's empowerment. And that, like I said, contributes to population stabilization. If more and more women are in the labor force, are in the job market, then they have fewer children. That's also been the experience in countries and states in India. So especially from the point, and this is for long, feminists have argued that this kind of incentive, disincentive kind of based population policies have in fact been a way of controlling women's bodies by the state. And that is what in the 1994 ICPD conference, which India was also a signatory to, all the UN countries agreed that this is not the way in which we will go ahead in terms of controlling population, but it would be actually something which would keep women's rights in the center. And keeping women's rights in the center, again, when I say education, I don't mean just making people aware about condoms and pills and so on. I mean formal education, that women go to school, that they complete school.
Yeah.
What is the kind of incentives we need for that to happen?
Yes.
What is the kind of incentive and enabling conditions we need to make it possible for women to continue working even when they have children? All of this contributes to a healthy population as well. And that could also be a way in which you look at the population policy. So like Professor James said, one is not saying that you should not have a population policy. The worry is this draft bill of the Law Commission in UP, which the entire focus seems to be largely on these incentives and disincentives, which violate certain human rights. And at the same time, from the point of view of population stabilization as well, we have experience which says that that's not the most successful way of doing it. And I don't think it is correct to say that we cannot compare UP to any other state or country. Then how do we learn? On what basis do we make policies? There has to be some kind of benchmarking. You do learn from each other's experiences. It's at a different stage. And finally, that the trend is
but
in
the path,
direction.
so let me say this, you're right, but the path that these states would have taken a long time ago is probably also the path that we take with, with clearer sight now, with clearer lessons now, that the Uttar Pradesh can now pick up on than what Tamil Nadu and Kerala did when they had to build the healthcare infrastructure, increase awareness.
Also, Odisha and Chhattisgarh, these states have also reached replacement level fertility.
Yes.
So it's not something that's impossible. And UP is also declining. It was 3.8 about 15 years back.
So actually, scientifically, data-wise speaking, it's not even a big challenge anymore as it was, a few decades ago, because already significant improvement has been made on that. Completely out of time. Thank you so much to all panelists. Thank you to Deepa Sinha and KS James for actually bringing in those helpful insights. It's very important to have these conversations while politics is one side of it, unless and until we get the experts' view to understand the good, the bad and the ugly for any policy, we will not be able to formulate a view. It's very easy to say simply that this is to control population and the population explosion which is happening, but are we witnessing that explosion? Yes, population control policies are still required, but what you're doing, have they in other states given us any benefit? No. Does it then boil down to simply making some political noise? And like the rivals are saying, playing communal politics? Maybe. Will it work? We don't know. Not one side in this election for Uttar Pradesh will be resorting to this kind of things. All of them will be. Let's just be very sure of it. The commentary that even came from SP and BSP leaders today on the Al-Qaeda terror suspect arrest was same. They were playing the same kind of politics. The challenge is for us to see through that, understand the core issues, and then debate the policies. Hope it was helpful to you. Thank you so much for joining us on this conversation.